Hi there, this video is called Live Extreme NHS Strikes
to Will Quince, who is Health
UK 2022.
Good morning to you, Mr. Quince. We had Stephanie Dunn from the Royal College of Nursing here on the sofa a few minutes ago, and I said, what question would she ask the Minister? And her question was this: what is stopping you as a government just sitting down with the nurses in a room and talking about pay?
So I and the Secretary of State have met with the RCN and
Really?
other unions, and I have said we're very happy to discuss, as the Secretary of State, working conditions and other ways in which we can help to ensure that nurses, and indeed all those staff, the 1.245 million people who work on the Agenda for Change contract within our NHS. But what we're not willing to do is to open negotiations about pay, and that's because we have an independent pay review body. That body makes recommendations every year, and the government has accepted those recommendations in full, as we did last year.
Okay, but you haven't necessarily always accepted every review body's recommendations, have you? There is a possibility. It's not illegal for you to sit down and talk about pay with them. And her argument, Stephanie's argument, was that politics is about solutions. It's about solving problems. And I guess what she's trying to say is, what is a government doing if it's not prepared to sit down and try to solve a problem?
So it is, yes, but it's also about looking at asks which are totally unaffordable. An ask of 19.2%, which is 5% over the rate of inflation. And let's just put that into some context. We're not just talking about the 320 or so thousand nurses. We're talking about the 1.245 million people who work on the Agenda for Change contracts within our NHS. That's why these figures are so large. That's why for every 1% over and above that £1,400, or average of 4.7% this year, as recommended by the independent pay review body, it equates to £700 million.
Well, those figures.
The ask of the RCN is over £10 billion. It's simply unaffordable. And then we also have to have an eye to inflationary pressures as well, which in the end make us all poorer.
Okay, those figures that you've just mentioned have been questioned by the BBC Reality Check team and by other independent experts. But can I just talk that headline figure about 19% that the nurses have been asking for? Is that the sticking point, that 19% would appear to many to be so high? And if they were to signal maybe a bit lower, would you then sit down in a room and talk money with them?
So 90% is, of course, totally unaffordable. That is £10 billion. I don't think that figure is...
Negotiate them. Go and see them. Go in the room. Don't hide behind the pillows.
Single out nurses and give them
they keep us alive.
Over and above all the others who work within the NHS, the porters, the cleaners, the physiotherapists, the junior managers, etc., who support the running of the NHS. But look, we have an independent pay review body for a reason. The government has looked at their recommendation, which is £1,400, or an equivalent of 4.72%, and accepted those recommendations in full. Important to stress, John, that's over and above last year.
Just pay that 3 or 2 more percent. That's all we're asking for.
Of inflation at the time, but rightly recognising the hugely important role the nurses, but of course all the staff within Agenda for Change within our NHS played during the pandemic, at a time when the wider public sector was frozen.
It doesn't sound like there's much potential in any movement in the talks with nurses then over the next few days. Can we talk about the ambulance strike tomorrow as well? Some really alarming warnings and headlines in the papers this morning.
That's worrying.
This one from a senior ambulance chief on the front page of the Times, who says the best we can hope for tomorrow is that everyone stays indoors, no one falls over, no one gets ill, and no one has a car crash. That is how concerned they are about the ambulance strike.
I don't think there's much you can do about that.
So look, of course I'm concerned. There is going to be disruption. The purpose of the unions calling strike action is to cause disruption. But I've been absolutely clear, and the Secretary of State and I are meeting with unions again later today, that there is a minimum level of service that is required for patient safety. That is Category 1 and Category 2, which equates to around 50% of all calls. Now, there is an expectation that those calls will be covered, and derogation conversations are being had between unions and individual trusts, but they are messages that I will repeat very firmly to unions later today.
And just explain to us, Category 1, Category 2, if you're not familiar with NHS terminology, just how does that break down in terms of, give us some examples?
So it's in effect life-threatening or emergency situations. So, for example, category 1 could be a
action
cardiac
strike.
arrest.
This is
Category 2 could be
industrial
a heart attack
action
or a
strike.
stroke. Category 2 would also include things like serious burns or things like a compound fracture. These are things where people need to get to an emergency department and as quickly as possible.
There are some reports this morning that even though you're bringing the armed forces to drive ambulances tomorrow to respond to some emergencies, that some of them have been told they won't be able to treat patients, might not even be able to put blue lights on vehicles. Is that the case?
What?
So that's right. They won't be. The armed forces personnel.
You're joking, right?
I'm hugely grateful for their support in this endeavour. Around 750 members of armed forces personnel are supporting trusts. What they won't be able to do is break the law. They will not, so driving through red lights, they won't be able to turn blue lights on. They will be there to drive ambulances in a support capacity.
Oh, that's
for
awful.
Trusts. Now, although they can't do is put the blue lights on and
oh, that's not good.
They will play a hugely important role in supporting paramedics.
No, people die.
In getting people to emergency departments.
Oh, that's reckless.
And they're part of broader contingency plans, including full service and community.
Well, you hear them. Be careful tomorrow. Don't go out unless it's an important job or this is an emergency.
For example,
all at risk of
taxis, and encouraging people
death tomorrow or dying.
Their own way to emergency department or a walk-in.
That's your employer. You talk to your employer about taking day off work tomorrow. So I'm not coming in because there's no safety in the roads. I'm not coming in. No security. I'm not working. Industrial action. Everyone takes day off work tomorrow. I think it's a practical job.
To do so because there will be disruption.
Your safety is more important.
The key thing is for anybody that does have an emergency situation or a life-threatening situation that they continue to call 999 as they would have done previously, and for any other situation, NHS 111 or NHS 111 online, and a clinician on the line will be able to advise accordingly.
But a lot of people are going to be really worried to hear that, aren't they? They're going to think that if their mum has a fall tomorrow or a partner has a heart attack and they call for an ambulance, they thought, well, at least the army will turn up in an ambulance. And now, from what you've said, that ambulance won't have any blue lights on its way to hospital.
Yeah, that's not very nice.
Traffic jam. So those 750 armed forces personnel are contingency to support ambulance trusts. As I have said, I'm
damn you,
clear with the union.
Damn you.
The expectation is a minimum service.
Damn you, greedy pigs.
Will be covered. But if you're asking, am I concerned?
I hope you bury someone tomorrow in the cemetery. You deserve it. All your MPs and House of Parliament. Especially you, British Sunak, Prime Minister of England.
I still hope that they will have.
You've sinned. You have failed this country.
I struggle to believe that any
the UK
paramedic or anybody working within the NHS could listen to Category 1 and Category 2 calls and not respond to them. So my message to the union is clear. We expect that minimum service level for patients.
Putting pressure on the cemeteries now, aren't you?
We expect Category 1 and Category 2 to be covered.
Will Quince, Health Minister, thanks for joining us on Breakfast.
Greedy, aren't they, little bastards?
Of course, we will keep you posted on the situation with strikes.
It's a bad day tomorrow.
Throughout the morning here on the programme.
I'll go out and report on it. Be careful.
7:41 and Chetan has been keeping an eye on the cricket.
If you like this video, please thumbs up. You subscribe to Shut and Sign Gems and the force people you always quick last spot. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Because look out for accidents tomorrow on the roads. And you might have to do the NHS job tomorrow and save people's lives. And Army won't turn up quickly enough, so it's going to be up to the public to save people's lives tomorrow. That is not on. I will not have this in my lifetime. No one will stand for it. We've got to work as a team tomorrow, general public. Stay together, be strong, and help each other out. Doesn't matter what you got, just do what you can. Bandages, get some hankies out, tie up them, and do your best. And stay positive and stay alive and just be positive and don't give up on if you are in a bad situation tomorrow. Just do what you can. But if you really don't feel safe working tomorrow at an practical job, do to an employer and tell them that you're taking a day off or say, I'm not coming in and you're not happy. Just do what you can. Stand up for yourself tomorrow and be positive and stay strong. It's going to be one hell of a day tomorrow. It's going to be a nightmare. Hope you like this video. Please sign gems. I'll just tell you how you out. I'll be out there reporting on it tomorrow. No joke. Please sign gems.